What's going on, guys? Dan from SSG bringing you another Edison format deck profile. This time I'm profiling my take on the Light Creator OTK deck. This is a pretty sweet deck that I saw initially on E3 Yu-Gi-Oh's channel, a pretty awesome channel. They upload daily, and they're kind of the forefront of the Edison content game, so be sure to go check them out. But this is my own little take on the deck, and we're going to get right into it. We have a lightsworn package for our engine, and it is 3 copies of Ryko, of course, the best interactive lightsworn card. It's one of the only interaction pieces we have actually in our deck, since we are a heavy OTK deck. I then elected to play 2 copies of Jain, as it's just my favorite standalone lightsworn card. You can kind of just stand alone, beat things down, and just apply pressure to your opponent without committing to your big OTK pushes. And milling 2 in the end phase is also very good, as Jain does have the best chance of surviving for the most part versus any of the other lightsworn cards. Then we move on. We have 1 copy of Lumina, as well as 1 copy of Lyla. Lumina is really important for this deck because it just puts 2 monsters into play, which is very important for a reason I will show you in just a second. But Lyla, as a 1 of it's searchable, so we're going to have back row removal that is searchable, and everyone knows Lyla is just a solid card. I like it right now in the metagame against a bunch of deep prisons that are running around. And then I do elect to play 1 copy of Wolf. I like to play 1 Wolf in my kind of half dedicated lightsworn decks just as a random milling piece, right? Just randomly just get that initial value. That strong start, if you mill it early in the game, can really just take over and completely push your opponent into a horrible position. So I just like the 1 of just to randomly mill it over, and hopefully if it's a dead draw, we can discard it in a number of different ways in this deck anyway. So I have the 1 Wolf here. Then we have 3 copies of the Creator, and yes, this is an awesome, awesome card. I remember being at shops way back in the day, looking at Creator in the case, saying a $30 ultimate rare way back in the day is like such a sweet card, and just really, really awesome. I like 3 Creators. I think it's really powerful. You want to have access to this card, and you want to get it banished so we can bring it back with our with our spell and traps that we bring back our remove play monsters, and then just kind of OTK our opponent by discarding, put a big monster from your graveyard into play, and then just completely OTK your opponent. And the Creator is just an awesome, awesome card. I'm so glad that someone had the insight to build a deck like this, because it's just a really powerful card, and it's definitely a card that is not played pretty much at all in the format right now. So I do like the Creator, as it's a unique take and a very awesome card. And one of the cards we're going to bring back quite a lot is the full 3 copies of Kristya. You can technically special summon this card using its normal special summon condition from our hand. However, we're most likely just going to be reborning this card off of Kristya, off of the Creator, and in a few other ways. So I think Kristya is just a really powerful card. It helps your OTK pushes play around Gores and Tragodia, which is extremely, extremely important, because your pushes in this deck are very streamlined, and you really want to commit to that 1 big push, and this just helps you make sure that you actually ensure the fact that you will kill your opponent when you elect to go for that push. So we have the full 3 copies of Kristya, full 3 copies of the Guardian of Order. This card is sweet. For those of you who don't know, you can drop this card into play from your hand if you control 2 light monsters. So it's a 2500 beat stick, vanilla, other than that, and you sort of just drop it into play and start beating down. And it's just really easy to set up OTKs with this card. That's why I have the full 3 copies, as I want this deck to be a dedicated OTK deck, and just easily pile up 8,000 points worth of damage. And yeah, very strong. Guardian of Order, really, really powerful. We have the full 3 copies of Soul of Purity and Light. This is our main extender. It's a good way to get 2 light monsters into play, using your normal summon, dropping a Soul of Purity and Light, and then you can go ahead and drop your Guardian of Order. Very, very powerful ways to just get damage into play and kill your opponent. But also, the main reason why we're running this card is because it banishes light monsters out of our graveyard, which is really important for what this deck is trying to do by reborning the Creator from the banished pile to enable your OTK pushes. So very, very powerful here. I do like the 3 Soul Purity and Light, and also it's just a fine card in this format. I kind of just like it a lot, as it's a 2000 attack point monster. It's really a little bit bigger because your opponent monsters lose 300 attack on their turn when they're trying to declare an attack into this card. So it acts as a 2300 monster on defense, but very strong, as you don't have to commit a normal summon to it. It's just going to do a lot of work. So I do like the 3 copies. And then, like I said, we're going to be removing monsters from play. We have 2 copies of Freed as well. I think Freed's just one of the most underrated cards in the format, and I just love this card so much. I've been wanting to build a lot of decks with it, and that's what sort of drove me back to go and try and make this creator OTK deck. As I saw, this deck did play at least one copy of Freed, but I do like the two here, as we're just going to get our game plan going by banishing those light monsters and bringing them back, but also controlling our opponent's board at the same time. And this card just is a dual purpose in this deck, so we do run the two Freeds. Very good. Of course, we have two copies of Honest. Every monster in the deck is light, and it's very important that I think every monster in the deck is light, just because we want to enable that Guardian of Order. When we're having the full 3 playset of the Guardian of Order, we want every monster to be light, and Honest is just going to make sure that it's always live in hand, so very good. We have, for spells, very fast spell lineup. We have 3 copies of Solar Recharge, very, very fast card. I think this card is very underrated, like, in general. You don't have to be a committed Judgment Dragon type deck to be playing this card at any number. You know, you can play 1, 2, or 3. I think people just kind of view this as a lightsworn card, but this card is very powerful in this deck, as it just gets your deck going. It gets light monsters in the graveyard to enable your combos, and just thins out your deck, and it's very, very, very powerful. So I do like the full 3 copies of Solar Recharge. Next to it, we have full 3 copies of Trade, and we have plenty of targets for this. We have the Creator, we have Guardian of Order, we have Kristya, and between this and the 3 Solar Recharges, this deck is extremely fast, and you don't really even need to play Upstart Goblin to have that consistency of trying to set up those OTK pushes very quickly. This helps get monsters in your graveyard to enable Freed and Soul of Purity and Light very fast, and yeah, 3 Trade-in, very powerful. And one of our main OTK cards here, we have full 3 copies of D.D.R, Different Dimension Reincarnation. We just want to banish those monsters with Freed and Soul of Purity and Light, bring back the banished monster, most likely the Creator, go for an OTK push. And a lot of times you can just settle and just go for Kristya and just kind of try to control the game that way, but this is really an OTK deck. You're going to try and go get that Creator, pitch a card, get a light monster back, drop Guardian of Order, potentially drop Kristya, something like that. Very, very powerful card, just really, really powerful. I'm surprised more people aren't trying to build decks with this, as every time I've played this card in this deck, it's just done so much work, and full 3 copies. We then, of course, have 1 copy of Charge the Light Brigade, very fast card, can help find what lightsworn we need, as well as reinforcements of the army to go grab Freed or Jain as well. Very versatile cards here. I'm going to search what we need at the time. We have 1 copy of Brain Control as an OTK deck. It'd be very, very easy to OTK our opponent, even without our Different Dimension Reincarnation or the Creator, because we're going to be able to just drop 2 monsters to play, whether it be Lumina, discard, special summon Wolf, Brain Control them, special summon Guardian of Order. That's pretty close to 8,000, and Brain Control just helps you enable those pushes kind of out of nowhere without even having a full setup for your OTK. So I do like the 1 copy of Brain Control. We then have 2 back row interruptions. We have the Heavy Storm, of course, and I'm electing to play the Giant Trunade, as having 3 Guardian of Orders, I think, just makes you more of an OTK deck, a dedicated OTK deck, and I think you really need to have one of these cards before you make a huge push like that with dropping Guardian of Orders into play. I think you really want to be removing those back rows before going off with your cards, so we have those 2 there. We have the Divine Phoenix Sword. This card is pretty sweet. You can banish warriors from your graveyard to add this card back to your hand. It just gives your monster 300, I believe, but overall, it's just solid. You can get it in the graveyard by milling it, and then it could be a +1 to your hand, but also enabling those banishes, which is very good as well. So we have the Divine Phoenix Sword. And then the last card in the main deck, 1 copy of Return for a Different Dimension. This card is incredible. We're just going to be able to kill our opponent when we have this card. I mean, straight up, it's obscene in this deck. It's just a 1 card OTK, and we're going to try and draw it as much as possible. We have a extra deck here. We don't have any tuners in our main deck, but potentially we're going to Brain Control a tuner, I guess, so just run through it quickly. We have the 2 5s, Catastor and Android, 2 6s, Brionac and Goyo. We have the 2 7s here, Ancient Fairy and Black Rose. Oh, 1 more 7. We have an Ancient Sacred Wyvern. Then we go to Stardust, Colossal Fighter, Tharler Archfiend, Avenging Knight Parshath. We have the Red Dragon Archfiend as well as Mistworm, and then 2 copies of the Chimera Tech. Because we have room for it, we're just going to play both, and it's very good. We have the Cyber Dragons coming in the sideboard, of course. We have the SSG Staple, 3 copies of D.D. Crow, 2 copies of Cyber Dragon. The SSG Staple, it's just staple, man. We just want to draw we want to draw this early and often. We want to draw a Cyber Dragon, of course, and going second. But also, I think Cyber Dragon has potential to be in the main deck. I had 1 in here at one point, but I kind of like the main deck the way it is. So I wanted to just put these on the side. It's just very powerful going second. This card with Guardian of Order can just OTK people out of nowhere. And I also think having more access to this by banishing it out of your graveyard, bringing it back with D.D.R to contact their whole board, that does come up sometimes. I think it's really powerful. You don't necessarily have to have this card in your hand to actually get the anti-machine effect off. So very good here. We have 2 copies of Thunder King, just solid light monster that we want to drop on turn 1. Just solid card. We have 1 copy of Eren. It is searchable in this deck via Charge of Light Brigade as well as Reinforcements of the Army, so I liked it to play 1 copy. I think it's pretty solid in a few different matchups. Kind of can just do its thing. Not the greatest card in my opinion, but I think I like playing it when you have Rhoda and Charge of Light Brigade in your deck, as it is a utility card that you do want to have access to when you have basically 3 copies in your deck for the price of 1. So very good there. I have 1 copy of Gores against Judgment Dragon, against Geyseress, things that just want to kind of pop off and try to kill you. Just solid card. I think it's just pretty powerful. It's a last line of defense. Onto spells. 2 copies of Lightning Vortex. Been going down on this card recently. I had 3 in a lot of my side decks, even like a month ago or so, but just kind of less dragons running around everywhere, and I kind of just like the 2 copies of Vortex as people aren't really committing too much to the board right now, especially like in Blackwing decks. They're just kind of beating you down with 1 thing until they actually have the resources to kill you, and then at that point the Lightning Vortex is too dead. I do side it in those matchups anyway, because I think it does do some work, but I think just 2 copies, as I kind of view it as a more like very, very high impact card that doesn't necessarily just completely blow people out against like it usually does against a deck like Dragon. So just the 2 copies of Lightning Vortex there, and then I have the 1 MST because it's not on the main board. We're going to go on the sideboard, and more anti-back row. We have 2 copies of Royal Decree. I think this card could easily be in the main deck, but I elected to put it in the side for now. I do think there is a version of this deck that should be playing the 2 Royal Decrees in the main board. Even next to the Return from a Different Dimension, I think that 3 trap lineup is pretty solid. So I definitely want to play around with that, but I think it's been excellent in the side, as like you really just want it against the decks that actually have trap cards, and so that's why it's in the sideboard here. And of course, you all know what the last card is. Would not be an SSG profile without the 1 copy of Trap Dust Shoot. Trap Dust Shoot really broken. We're just going to draw it first turn every time, and you're just going to be better and outskill your opponent by having this card in your hand. If you don't draw it turn 1, I don't know, you're not a real duelist. So we have the 1 copy for when we're going first in the side deck, but that is a bit about it, guys. Let me know what you guys thought about the deck in the comments section below. I think this is a pretty sweet deck. I don't know if it was designed by E3, but he was the one that I first saw it from him on his channel. I think it's a pretty powerful deck. It plays a bunch of sick cards like the Creator, you have Kristya, you have the Guardian of Order. Really powerful OTK deck that can just do a lot of work. And that is about it, guys. So without further ado, this is Dan V from SSG signing out.